Hello everybody, my name is Muhammad Ridhuan bin Abdullah. So today I will talk about question 1A and question 1B. So first we'll go to question 1A. Question 1A is about computation the goodwill or bargain purchase on the acquisition of Mas Berhad. So we read about the acquisition of Mas Berhad first. On 1 January 2018, the company acquired 80% of the ordinary share of Mas Berhad. Yaakob Berhad has also acquired 2/3 of the 6% debentures in Mas Berhad for 100 million. When the retained profit and revaluation reserve of Mas Berhad were 20 million ringgit and 15 million ringgit, respectively. Payment for both acquisition of the share and 6% debentures in Mas Berhad was made by cash. Mas Berhad land had a fair value of 6 million more than its carrying amount on the date of acquisition. Next, on the date of acquisition, a homegrown brand of Mas Berhad with an indefinite useful life was valued at 3 million ringgit by Yaakob Berhad. Prior to the acquisition, the brand was not recognized by Mas Berhad. On 1 September 2020, Yaakob Berhad enhanced its position by acquiring an additional 10% of the ordinary shares of Mas Berhad for cash consideration RM13 million, and this transaction has not yet been recorded. So to compute the goodwill or bargain purchase, the formula is consideration transfer plus non-controlling interest minus fair value of net asset, and we'll get the net goodwill or bargain purchase. So for the consideration transfer, we will use the amount of 419 which we get from the financial statement of Yaakob Berhad under the investment in Mas Berhad. We will minus with the acquisition of 6% of debenture in Mas Berhad for RM 100 million. We'll get consideration transfer of 390. Next, we'll go to the NCI. So this company policy is to value the NCI at the proportionate of fair value of net asset. So in a simple language, the NCI will use the percentage time with the fair value of net asset. So to find the NCI, we must find the fair value of net asset first. So under fair value of net asset, we have a few items, which is ordinary share capital, which we will get from the financial statement for 380. Next, we have the retained profit for 20 million, and then we have an asset revaluation reserve 15 million, increase in fair value, which is 6 million, and unrecognized intangible asset 3 million. So we total up all these items and we get fair value of net asset of 424 million. So we go back to the NCI. So the NCI, we use the percentage time with the value of net asset. So the NCI percentage is 20% since the parent has acquired 80% of the ordinary share. So the remaining is the NCI percentage, which is 20%. So 20% with time with the 424 million, we'll get 84.8 million ringgit. So we already have the figure. We'll use the formula then. consideration plus non-controlling interest minus with the fair value, and we'll get the net goodwill of 15.8 ringgit million. So that's all for question 1A. Next we'll go to question 1B. So next we'll go to question 1B. Question 1B is about computation of goodwill or bargain purchase on the acquisition of Tanjung Berhad. So we will see the information relating to Tanjung Berhad first. On 1 July 2020, Mas Berhad acquired 60% of the ordinary share of Tanjung Berhad. The consideration transferred for the acquisition was paid by cash of RM 148 million. So to compute the goodwill or bargain purchase, we'll use the same formula, which is consideration transfer plus with NCI minus with fair value of net asset, and we'll get the net profit or bargain purchase. So but the situation is a bit different for these questions, since the parent company, which is Akok Berhad, has no direct relationship with Tanjung Berhad. Therefore, the consideration transfer will use the indirect value, and there will be no non-controlling interest, in this computation. So first we'll calculate the consideration transferred. Indirect consideration transfer, the formula is percentage of parent acquired subsidiary, which is Akok acquired the Mas Berhad, which is 80%, times with the consideration of Mas Berhad acquired Tanjung Berhad. So we'll get 80% times with 148, and we'll get 118.4 million. Next, we'll jump to the fair value of net asset, since we doesn't have non-controlling interest. For the fair value of net asset, we have the ordinary share capital, which we'll get from the financial statement, for 240. So next we have the retained profit. So with the retained profit, we need to do some calculation. First we will take the amount of net profit for Tanjung Berhad, which is negative 10, and we will times with 6/12, since it was acquired on 1 July 2020, and then we will take the retained profit amount in the financial statement and deduct by the amount we get after we apportionate the profit earlier. So we'll get 8 minus negative 10 times with 6/12. So we'll get 13 million. So the total fair value of net asset, we get 253. We will minus the indirect consideration transfer with the fair value of net asset, and we'll get the bargain purchase of 134.6 million ringgit. So that's all for question 1B. Thank you.
Hello and Assalamualaikum. My name is Muhammad Hafizi bin Hashim. I am a second presenter in this group. Today, I want to present the answer for question 3A. The question given is to calculate the gain or loss in the disposal of share for the HIHI group. Okay, the first thing that we need to do, we need to identify the goodwill of the share first. to calculate that, we start with the consideration transferred, which is 30 million. It was stated in the question that he Berhad has acquired 80% interest in Coco Berhad for 30 million. Then we plus with NCI, which is 5 million. That 5 million figure we get from the 20% multiplied with 25 million. Why 25? Why 20%? It is because he Berhad acquired 80% interest in Coco Berhad. So the remaining balance is 20%. Lastly, we minus with the fair value net asset, which is 25 million. In this question, said that on the date of the acquisition, the fair value of the net asset of Coco Berhad was 25 million. Lastly, we get the goodwill 10 million. Then we will proceed to calculate the gain or loss on the disposal of the share. Firstly, we start with the sale proceed, which is 50 million. It was stated in the question that he Berhad disposed 50% of its interest in Coco Berhad to Adam Berhad for 50 million. Then we plus with the remaining fair value, which is 20 million. This figure also stated in the question that on the date of disposal, the fair value of the remaining share was 20 million. After that, we minus with fair value net asset, which is 56 million. We get this figure from 80% multiplied with 70 million. We use 80% because he Berhad only acquired 80% interest in Coco Berhad. Then we minus with the goodwill that we calculate earlier, which is 10 million. So lastly, we got gain in disposal, which is 4 million. Okay, that's all for the question 3A. Thank you.
Hi, I am Muhammad WAJDI bin Muhammad SHAHARUDDIN from KAC 2206A. I will explain assignment question 3B. So, in January 2015, he Berhad acquired 80% of interest in Coco Berhad for RM30 million, which they become the parent and subsidiary at the date of acquisition. Then, in January 2021, he Berhad disposed to Adam Berhad amount 40% for RM50 million. So, he Berhad interest left is 40%, and this date of disposal, they become an associates because their interest is below 50%. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum. My name is Amin, and today I will explain about question number 4. Okay, for the question number 4, they ask whether the company have a power over grade. First, we look at the question. It stated that Apple holds 45% of voting rights in grade, which is more than the other two company. And the other two company, which is Coconut Berhad and Strawberry Berhad, holds the remaining of the 45% equally. And in the recent meeting of shareholders, it was agreed that Coconut Berhad have power to direct all the relevant activities regarding with the marketing issues. So Apple argue that they have a power because Apple Berhad have more voting rights than Coconut Berhad, and Coconut Berhad disagree with Apple that they have power over grade. So to answer this question, we will look at MFRS10. In MFRS10, investors have power over the university when it has less than majority voting rights. When investors have a contractual arrangement between other vote holders, or investor have a right arising from the other contractual arrangement, or the investor have a voting rights, or investor have potential voting rights, or the combination of all of it. So these 5 criteria has to be, not all of it has to be met, but if either one of these have met, then the company can have a power over the investee. So in this question, Apple have not majority but more voting rights than the other investor. So technically, if we refer to FAR610, they will have more power over the other. But Coconut Berhad also have met the criteria in FAR610, which is contractual arrangement. They have a power to direct all the relevant activities regarding with marketing issues. So we need to determine whether Apple or Coconut Berhad that has power over grid. Okay, for FAR610, it is still the issue of power over the investor is a bit complicated. So we need to assess or to determine whether each company have more or have met more criteria in FAR610, which is the five criteria. Let's say if Apple Berhad have more voting rights, and also they have a contractual arrangement. Thus, we can assess that they have a power over the grid. But in this case, it's still not clear. Thus, we conclude that both company, which is Apple and Coconut Berhad, do not have a power over grid. Thank you.